Excuse me,
Go ahead, please.
Personer. Yeah. Have you read the book, The Evolution of Desire?
Evolution of Desire. No, I haven't read that.
Yeah, well, that phrase literally is just distilling the whole theory of that book into one little phrase. They hang out at the finish line to pick the winner. They're the sexual selectors. So it's not an absolute. You know, one statement can't define life, but it's a rough guide and a good guide. Okay, and if you read that book, it'll explain exactly what that phrase means.
So, question for you, person. So,
Yeah.
You said that you read my book and that you agreed with
Sorry,
some of it.
I didn't read the whole thing. I listened to it, and I just couldn't keep going.
Okay, so what brought you to the book, first of all? So why did you buy it?
I had a friend on stereo who was kind of talking kind of red pill-ish, and I wouldn't say he was like I was a coach to him, but I was kind of like just like kind of watching him, seeing where he's going and in his mindset.
Who is it?
Huh?
Who was it? I might know him.
I think his name was Junior.
Yeah,
he actually recommended you, Moff, and I was like, okay. And I heard you talk to some women, and I was like, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about, you know. But then I kind of heard like more of the red pill stuff, and then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You know how like you hear something and you're like, okay, I kind of agree with that, but doesn't mean I have to agree with everything. And it's just like, whoa. And then some of the stuff you don't agree with is just like throws you completely back. That was kind of, for me, it was just like, whoa. And then I started getting into Rich Cooper, and I was like, let me listen to this Unplugged Alpha book. And I was like, there's got to be some sense in this. There's got to make some. This comes from somewhere. And as I was listening, it was just like, okay. And then like I think chapter 2, where it got to the point where I took some notes, but it got to the point where if a woman says no to you, then then you're not alpha enough, basically. And I'm paraphrasing, I know, but it's like
chapter 2, women's rules, how they break them or make them. Yeah.
Right. And
women break rules for alpha males. They make rules for beta males.
Make rules for beta males. So you have a good young man. In my mindset, I'm thinking about the young man that I would talk to, any young man, not even the one on stereo, and he's, hearing this thing, and he's like, well, she says she doesn't want to sleep with me or treat her like a prison mate, and because she doesn't want me to do that to her, that means she would allow some other guy to do that to her, instead of saying maybe she values her body, maybe she values herself, and she doesn't want to do that. But now he feels not alpha enough. Maybe he has all the high value stuff a man, quote, that has. But she says, no, I'm not letting you treat me like a cellmate. And he's like, oh, well, then I'm not alpha enough. And so he may feel like, forget this. She might be doing that with someone else. So she's thinking about Chad. And she's like, oh, well, he's doing that with Chad, but she's not doing that with me. And now his mindset, he's all jacked up in the head because he thinks that because she won't let him, do whatever.
I'll tell you something, dude. Guys that get mad when they don't get results haven't learned how to deal with rejection yet. And unfortunately,
like 99% of guys.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of guys haven't been taught how to deal with rejection.
Agreed.
And when they find stuff like my book or other creators out there in the Mano Swamp who say similar things but slightly differently, the reality of it all is that a lot of these guys aren't high value. I've had guys call in my show many times and they're like, but I'm a high value man. It's like, no, you're not. You can't even wear the hat that you want when you leave your house. Like, how are you a high value man? Like, your wife is shitting on you for leaving a toilet seat up and you're calling on my show. Yeah. Like, that's not a high value guy. Like, that's a guy that's struggling to maintain frame in the relationship. So a lot of the guys will just default to convenience. And I never tell guys to default to convenience. My slogan, has been for years, do the damn work, level yourself up. Men must make something out of themselves. And when they come to a nihilistic view of themselves, lives, their lives, a sexual marketplace, that's when they start doing dumb shit like, oh, I'm never going to get a girl because my jawline's not straight enough. And they go and pay some dipshit on the internet money to assess their face and give them a score. There's a lot of people out there that do stuff like that aren't being useful to guys in masculinity. And look, dude, I'm on your side. I want guys to have a good experience. It sounds like you feel like you have a good experience, but the problem that I hear with you as I'm talking to you is that you're ignorant to a lot of facts that could come back and bite you in the ass later on down the road. They may or may not bite you in the ass, but they could come back and bite you very hard. And at some point, maybe in 5 or 10 years, you might come back. I may be around, maybe I'm not. Be like, yo, Rich, you were right. I should have paid attention to these things.
So there's a guy out there. I'm not going to mention any names, Moff. I'm not a big name mentioner, but that would disagree with Moff on stereo, hardcore. And one thing he asked me, he was saying, "Oh, and he's like liberal or whatever it may be. And he's like, Personer, how do you know your wife's not cheating on you? If like when you leave the house or whatever?" And for me, I'm just like, it's an impossibility. It's a zero.
You don't know.
No, it's
you don't know with 100% certainty. You're right.
Yeah, you never know. And that's why I asked if you had the experience, because when you do have experience, I realize that notch count isn't the end all be all metric for all guys. Like my first girlfriend I wanted to marry too, but I was blindsided by the fact that not only was she cheating on me with one guy, but two guys, because why? I didn't have any experience. I was like you, like I was on my game. I was on top of my stuff. In fact, a big problem was that she didn't have an identity outside of me. It was always Jaren and Jane, Jaren and Jane. Years later we had the conversation and that was a big thing. Whatever, girls always have excuses, but what I'm getting to, I didn't have the experience to identify or know, like, is she doing this or not? But when you do get in those reps, I mean, girls walk in. I just had one walk out a second ago. You pretty much know what's going on in her head because you've been through you've had so many conversations. It's like anyone who works in sales. When you get in more reps, at certain points in the conversation whether it's likely to close or not, or where you need to steer the conversation, what the core objections are, and you start to put these things in buckets. And you're able to identify these things and really not have to think twice about it. And then as you get in more experience, you build it into your intuition. So then these things don't even come up. So it's not I don't think we're trying to say that, okay, your wife is probably out there banging a bunch of other chads or anything. But if you don't have the experience in your pre-marriage past, then how would you really know? You wouldn't even really know what to look for.
So this dude over here dropped a super chat. He said, did he lose his V card before marriage? So how much experience did you have with women? Like, were you a virgin or?
I mean, I would say for for the technical term, I would say, yeah, I was.
Okay, so your wife is your one and only.
Were
you born again? Is that why you say technical?
I am born again, but not necessarily that. I've dated before I met my wife. My wife is not my first girlfriend. My wife is my first girlfriend.
So, I mean, you've got very, very strong ego investments. I've heard you say that you're a religious man. It's fine. So you've got very strong ego investments in this working out. And that's fine. I hope it does work out. I hope you guys are together forever. I hope you raise a big and loving family and you have grandchildren and all that good stuff. But this is where guys go completely sideways that believe what you believe, is when everything doesn't work out. And if she decides to leave and abandon the marriage because she thinks that she can do better and the marriage isn't serving her, this is when a guy's safe world theory collapses on himself. This is when the guy puts a noose around his neck. This is when he puts a 45 in his mouth wants to put a horse tranquilizer dart in his leg and end things. That's what I'm aiming to stop, is to give guys tools so they understand the reality of the world. I would encourage you to listen to the rest of the book. I know that you're not going to love it, but the truth of the matter is you're going to get some value out of it if you open your mind to many of the concepts that I talk about.
So here's what I want to make clear is that, and I've had this thought and conversation with myself, even in my mind, if my wife was there to leave me, it would be bad for our kids and all that. But it's not like a thing where I'm like, oh no, my whole world is going to fall apart. My investment, and as Scott asked, my investment is in Christ, right? It's not in my wife to the point where I'm like, oh, she's my end all and be all. Christ is my end all and be all. Like, and that to me, that's never going to leave, right? So it's not like I'm going to like jump off a bridge.
But everything you've been talking about during our conversation has to do with your ego investments into relationship and what religion told you relationship should be. You haven't mentioned Christ once. This is the first time you've mentioned Christ.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's the main thing. That's what when Scott asked. That's
why I was curious, because in the hierarchy you said man, woman, or man, woman, children, and then usually it's animals, but typically it's God at top.
God,
No, what I mean by that, I meant like when it comes to leading your family, leading your wife. Men lead their wife, and you lead your children together. That's the point I'm making. So definitely Christ is the number one. And that should be, to me, that should be a given, And so I'm not worried about if my wife was to leave, I wouldn't die, And so for me, it's just like, she's not like my one and only end all and be all. As far as women are, yes, she is, right? I don't care about any other woman but my wife. And that's kind of where my point is. So
yeah, it's always guys that that struggle with the realities of what I talk about that go back to where you're going. It's like, look, if I just subscribe to the religious narratives, if I just lead, if I just do the right thing, if I'm a good father and a good husband,
I think
everything will work
that,
out at the end of the day.
But that's not where I am. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Well, what you're saying is the statements of facts, the uncomfortable statements of facts about the relationships that men and women have on this planet today, you don't like. And
no, you're missing my point. Even if I didn't like it, it's true. It's true, regardless if I don't like it.
Yeah, like you don't like them. I mean, that's why you stop listening to the book, because you don't like them. You don't want to hear it.
I stopped listening to the book. I stopped trying to listen to the book when you were saying how if you're alpha enough, basically, a woman will basically allow you to treat her like a prison mate, which I'm not even going to say the things that you said that she would allow you to do.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all.
You didn't say those words. But
I said that women will break rules for alpha men and they'll make rules for beta men. And that's how women operate today.
You got into a little bit of detail there, which I'm obviously, as a Christian, I'm not going to get into.
Okay, well, you don't like the detail. That's fine.
Yeah, but the point is, and I can stomach it to go through it. But my point is, and I even talked with my wife, it's just like, why would a woman want you to do that to her? You know, and it's just like, that's why I'm saying you're
talking about.
You have no experience with women, dude. That's why you don't understand. That's why you don't understand, because you don't have any experience with women. You've never had a woman have genuine burning desire for you that will bend over backwards and do the most obnoxious things, and that's why you're frustrated with those notions that they actually exist. Probably because you don't get them. Probably because you don't get them in your own household, and you're surprised to hear them, right?
No, I think you're getting a little bit personal there. I think
but that's the reality of the world that we live in, Matt.
Well, let me say it this way. To me, I see it like I wouldn't want a woman to want me to do that to her body. Like, why would you want? Why? And to me, I can't fathom that. And the reason, and I'm not saying there are different people out there. No, that's my point. My point is the reason why, personally, for me, I can't fathom that. And there are some guys that can't fathom that.
You have experience with one woman. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and half of them are women. There's 4 billion women. You think that all of them are exactly like your wife, and society should be exactly like your marriage?
And that's not what I'm saying.
That's why you've got difficulty with the conversations that I have.
No, I don't think so. Listen to what I'm saying carefully. What I'm trying to say
I am listening to what you're saying, but caller, as it's been stated here, you're denying everything.
Yeah, and even, for example, when you say, oh, if my wife left me tomorrow, I wouldn't care. I call 100% bullshit on that, because I got laid a ton before my first girlfriend, and then who ended up being my wife. I had the experience with women. I thought just like you did. Like, I've had good relationships, bad relationships. I went into my marriage like, all right, I'm going to be the man. I'm going to be her rock. It still failed, to really no fault of my own. There were outside influences. And I think you're blind to these things. And it's precisely guys like you that do have these problems when, as Rich says, the safe world theory crumbles, because you've tied up your identity in her. So I'm just saying, I hope against me, though. What I'm saying though, I hope your marriage works out. I think the Western world needs more of that. Like, I'm really pulling for you. Yeah. But just be aware that there are outside influences that you might be blinded to because you just don't have the experience. That's what I'm trying to get
I can't tell you, Matt, hear me out for a second. I can't tell you how many guys that I've talked to over the last 5 or 6 years that started where you're at, that have booked me and paid me a lot of money to help them figure out how to get back on their feet and why their wives left them. Like, I'm not even talking dozens. I'm talking in the hundreds, and probably well over 1,000 now.
So here's the thing, and I know you got to put that out there, Rich, but here's the thing. I think you think that I'm this guy who's just like, well, I don't know what's going on, and I think that my wife. No, my thing is this. It's not whether I had experience with my wife or not is not the point. The point is that is a different mindset that you guys are coming from. I'm not dragging on your mindset. I'm just saying there are people out there with different mindset. There are guys out there that are not going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that to another woman's body. And there are women out there that are saying, I don't want a guy doing that to my body. You know, so that's what I'm saying. It's not always about notch count. It's not always about sex. It's not always about all those things. Are there people out there in that world that are like that? Yes. Could it be a high amount? Yes. Could we even argue that is the majority? Sure. But majority doesn't even matter, right? So what I would tell young men, what I would encourage them, find different women to spend time with, find different guys to spend time with, learn from different older men that are not so focused on notch counts, that are not so focused on this kind of culture. It's a culture that I think you have to pull yourself out of. And if you don't pull yourself out of the culture, yes, you're going to have these issues of
so
they only have to finish line.
Here's the problem with that statement. When you say spend time with other women, like we have all spent more time collectively with way more women than you. You got one wife of 10 years.
You're doing this bragging thing
before that. No, it's not a brag. I'm taking what you said, which is go spend some time with other women. I've spent time with way more women than you, dude. So how was that even an argument?
It's not. You can spend time with 50,000 women, right? And they can all be those trashy women you're talking about. Or you can spend time with 3 women and they may not be the trashy women you're talking about. It's not about
that sounds black pill.
Yep. Like it sounds black pill, dude. Like it sounds like what you're
married.
No, but it sounds black pill. Like it sounds like a nihilistic sort of view of the reality.
It's not. It's a nihilistic.
Hear me out, bro. Matt, chill. Hear me out. Let me finish what I'm saying. Now you're interrupting me, okay? There's here. Let me throw this up on the screen to sort of frame this for you, so you understand it. I know that you're not going to like it. Doesn't matter to me. We're at that point where we're not going to be friends anyway. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit more. Come on, work with me, StreamYard. Can you guys see that on the screen, or is it too?
You got there, Rich.
We can see some. Which particular box?
The first quadrant's just a little cut off on the left margin.
Okay, so there's 4 quadrants to the unplugging process, right? Yeah. There's plugged-in betas. There's unplugged betas, and the difference between a plugged-in beta is that, I'll just go through all these bullet points here. Yeah. Okay, so plugged-in betas are basically the bottom 80% of men. They're blissfully ignorant to the way that the world works. They bend the knee to women, societal narratives. They put women on a pedestal. They chase women, not excellence. They're mostly nice guys. They tell others to just be themselves, try to negotiate desire, use chore play around the house. If you don't know what that is, it's if I do the dishes enough, cut the grass enough, then good things will happen, in the bedroom. They're insignificant and generally invisible to most women, are physically out of shape, are fragile, and allow problem women into their lives. This doesn't sound like you. You haven't let a problem woman in your life. She stuck around when you were sick. You're a personal trainer, so I'm assuming you're not fat. You don't look fat in your picture anyway. It doesn't sound like you. Was fat too. It's an old picture. Okay. So there's the plugged-in beta. The next level up is the unplugged beta, and that's basically the same thing, but now they understand the reality of the world, or they start to understand the reality. Often trauma brings them to the point of unplugging. They are generally mad and stay mad when they unplug from the lies. They're very similar to the plugged-in beta's mindset. Now that they see the truth, they wallow in misery. And they stay at this point perpetually. They very rarely do the work to level up. They stay in a state of unplugged but beta. Most are missing fastidious, relentless pursuits of excellence. Many are the smartest person in the room. Talk about all that stuff over here.
Moss was talking about earlier on Stereo. He says he's the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. Okay. And then down over here, there's the plugged-in alpha, and you sound like a combination of a plugged-in beta and a plugged-in alpha, right? You sound kind of naturally alpha the way that you're talking about leading the household, but that's the best that church is going to get for you. This is the next level up over here where you're an unplugged alpha. And the chances of you getting here, the way that you're talking, the way that you view these uncomfortable truths about life is almost zero. And that's probably fine with you. And we're not trying to change your mind. And you're clearly not going to change our mind about our experiences and the realities of the world. This is why we're at where we're at. We're far more influential. Like I could go down the list of
well, you kind of broke it down for me. And I think like what you said, like the smartest person in the room, I think we were in Stereo before we got into the conversation and Mark was saying that. I was like, where do you get that from? But I think that's what it is. It's like this unplugged beta mindset, just to use your lingo. I don't believe in it necessarily, but it's like, oh, women are this, women are that. My thing is, it's the culture. If you're in this box, yes, this is all true if you're living in that box. And what I'm saying is get out of that box. That's what I would tell young men. Like,
so what you're telling guys is to plug back into the lies and everything will be fine.
No, not necessarily.
Blissful ignorance is the way to go, is what you're suggesting, Matt.
That's the whole culture right there. Even that the beta, the plug beta, that's a culture in of itself, right? Get out of that culture too. To me, it's just a culture that you're living in. I think Scott was talking about it with notch counts and all this stuff. Like, whoa, what's your notch count? I knew that was going to come up. Oh, what's notch count? Like, I don't even. Let's say I had a big notch count. Let's say I had a small notch count. It doesn't even matter. I don't even want to say any of all that craziness. For me, yeah, I know you make that face, Maul, because that's the culture you guys are in, and that's what I'm trying to say. There are young men.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, when you have more experience, you have more insights.
So
when you have things that you've done and you've lived the life and you've experienced the world, you have an experience that people that haven't done those things don't have. There's obviously importance when it comes to that.
For example, your statement like, oh, these easy, trashy women, or I don't remember exactly what the context was.
They just call them trashy. And whether they're easy, I don't know, but they're definitely trashy.
Yeah, but I hear this a lot.
You married a woman that's not a virgin.
Yeah.
Okay.
So was she trashy?
what the thing is that in her past, she has a past, right? And she wouldn't say that that's the person she wants to be in her past.
What does her past look like?
What's her past?
Because that makes a difference.
Like for you guys or whatever, because I know that's how you guys think this is going to be like kind of Andrew Tate thing, whatever. Like two guys, right? So I know, oh well, that's not a lot. That's not a lot. So it doesn't matter. So for me, that's why I don't want to bring that stuff up, because I'm the perfect example. She's the perfect example, right? For example,
she's not the perfect example of a perfect woman, because when you got married, she was not chaste. She was not a virgin.
Okay, that's fine. As long as you guys, I'm not saying you guys should see her that way. But
here's a question for you, because you're saying notch count doesn't matter. So you married your wife at 2 guys. That's actually not too bad. That's,
I know.
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
But if she had 200 guys, it still wouldn't matter, because you're saying notch count doesn't matter.
To me, it wouldn't matter. If
you marry a girl, you marry a girl with the 200 body count.
Yeah, if she had 200 or 2,
but they're trashy.
If that was my wife,
okay.
The wife that I'm married to right now, if it was the same person, it wouldn't matter to me if it was 2 or 200. It's my point, is what I'm saying.
I think you're lying.
Would be the same person. That's the point.
So, you didn't even get to my red flag chapter, dude, because when you're talking about trashy women, you're talking about staying away from trashy women. And a woman that's got a notch count of 200 is trash. She's a very bad choice for marriage.
Would you buy a car with 200,000 miles on it?
And pay full price for it like it's a new car?
Yeah, like it's brand new.
I want to explain this because I don't drive, but I want to explain this because I think this is very important, right? It's not about what her past was like, or my past was like, or anyone's past was like.
Yes, it is, dude. Women are concerned with a man's future. Men need to be concerned with a woman's past.
I got you.
You completely overlooking a woman that's been with 200 guys tells me that you're plugged into society's comforting lies. You can be as religious as you want. You can go to church every day of the week, 3 times a day. That is not going to serve you over a long-term basis as a guy. If you believe that, that's fine. I hope it works out for you, but it probably won't on a balance of probabilities.
I think you're missing the point there, Rich.
No, I'm not missing the point at all, dude. You're the one that's missing the point, because you're calling women that are promiscuous trash, but then you'd say, well, I would completely overlook a woman as wife material if she'd been with 200 guys.
Right.
She just got right with God or something like that, right?
If at the moment she is not a promiscuous woman, then yes, right? But if she's still promiscuous, then she's trash. If she's still promiscuous, then it's trash. If she stops being promiscuous, then she's no longer trash. That's my
the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way, Matt. It really doesn't work that way.
Dude. And the reason I took issue. Go ahead, Rich.
Go ahead, Jaron. Sorry.
The reason I take issue, because I hear a lot of guys, especially my personal life guys on my channel, like, oh, well, yeah, you had another girl come in, she must be trash. Like, no, most of the girls I date, they're actually really cute. They're shy, they're feminine, they're insecure. But it's because I've developed myself to a point where women want a guy like me. So I hear that a lot. I'm not saying that you are, but I hear that a lot from more like black pill type guys. Like, oh, well, she put out the first night, she must be trash. I'm like the second, third guy she's ever had. Like,
all right,
that doesn't make her trashy.
Okay, so let's do this. So we're just going to agree to disagree. I got the chat getting frustrated and wanting me to cut you from the show so we can move on to something else. I appreciate you expressing your views and your issues with the concept that I've talked about. You really haven't presented anything that's a better solution in my eyes. I don't think the chat or anybody else.
If I had a chance, I probably would.
Dude, you've been on for the past hour.
Yeah, but I've been cut off a couple of times, especially when I'm getting to the point.
No, dude, you got to the point every single time you were talking when you're talking about a point. So I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for hopping on, brother. I wish you the best. That would just keep going on. That would just keep going on. So that's just an example of a plugged in beta. That's all that is, right? I mean, like I hope his ego investments with his marriage and his life and everything work out, but at the end of the day, no. Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that short clip. If you did, consider supporting the creation of content by checking out my supplement line. Pinned in the top comment below of this video in the comments, there's a link to the unpluggedalpha.com/shop. When you click through, you'll be able to land over here, and the entire lineup is broken down by category that it performs best in: estrogen metabolism, fat burning, your foundational essentials for health, immune health, performance, and testosterone support. If you check out with coupon code ALPHA10, you'll get 10% off on your first order. There's also the option to use the subscribe and save model, where regular shipments will be sent over to you on a regular basis, and that gives you a little bit of a discount, and your supplement facts are always broken down over here. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have an awesome day. And again, check out that link. It's pinned in the top comment below in this video. Peace out.